show you what we're working with right here. I'm going to take the camera for a second. You're looking at the injectors, rocker arms, push rods right here, and the harness on the back side of this gasket, which is the white wire goes to your glow plugs, red wire goes to these yellow connections for the fuel injectors. Now, to take the glow plugs off, which is what we're after, I need to use my needle nose pliers and very carefully, not pulling on the wire, just like when you pull off a spark plug wires. I pull on the boot like so. You just want to hold on to the top of the boot. It's got some little rings on it, give you good grip, and the needle nose get in there in a tight situation, tight area. Now, that reveals to us the head of the glow plug. I've already had mine pulled out, really easy, but I went ahead and put one back in to show you guys. Now, it's in between. You'll see on the top side of the fuel injector, in between the right side, the back, like towards the back of the truck rocker arm, and this yellow plug. You'll see it down in there. You'll see this little chrome tip. Get my flashlight working here for you guys. Give you a little bit better view. You see it down there? Looks very small. Looks like a little, I don't know, like a spark plug off of like a weed eater or something. Now, it's going to take a 10mm deep well socket that I found is the best thing to get that out. You might even have to bump over the motor once or twice to kind of get that socket in there. But believe me, if you do it right, it'll fit. No problems. Like I say, worst case scenario, you just kind of like got to bump it to cycle these rocker arms a little bit farther out of the way, and you can pull it all the way out. Once you've unscrewed it with your 10mm long extension and 10mm socket, again, you want to come back, pliers. I would actually suggest a better way to do it would be with a hose, maybe like a 1/4-inch hose or something. Just like to get a spark plug in a tough area, slip it over and take it out. I didn't have that, so this is a risk now, because you don't want to drop it in any of these engine valleys. And just grab the tip of the head and just slowly pull it out. It's almost like that game Operation. Like, you don't want to go bumping around in there and start dropping it. And this is what you got. This is the actual element that heats inside the motor. This is the fine thread, which is important later for the kit. And then this is where the white wire clips onto, just like this. And that's all it is. It goes in there and heats up the motor for starting. Alright. Alright guys, now we're at this side of we're at the passenger side of the motor. We need to go ahead and pull all the glow plugs out before we can do the test. So I've already repeated the process. I'm pulling that out, got all of them out on this side. Now we're going to start taking apart this side. First things first, you need to get room, because where this tube goes down, connects to this side of the intercooler, you have no room down there. I'm sure y'all tried to check it out before, maybe even have one blow off before. It's a pain. So I found the easiest thing for me is take off my lug wrench, take an 8mm, pull off one screw right here, 2 screws down here on this side that hold that bottle on, and then as you can see, go ahead and pop this overflow hose off. Now we got it loose in here. We're going to leave this drain back hose on because we just need to kind of get it out of the way. Now that we're out of the way, you can kind of get some light in there and see that that's what we're after right here, is to be able to get those clamps off. These right here to go into our intercooler. For a little bit more space, because I just need it, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my battery terminals. Make sure that positive doesn't touch anything else. Well, it doesn't really matter. I've already got this on that side. Then again, take a 8mm wrench, the socket with a long extension to get down to the battery tie down. It's what holds the battery in place from shaking around and whatnot. Once I undo that, I can pull this out and put the battery to 3. Okay. Now that gives us a little more room. You can kind of see what we're working with. You can also see my cheap way to try to save my transmission that just obviously didn't work. Now, these are the clamps right here. This one, right there, and then another one back there. Again, I chose to take off this back clamp because I find that it'll be easier to get the hose back on the back side than it would to try to get the hose back on with the rubber hose on this side. 12mm deep well socket again. They're facing straight up, so you should be able to use a long extension, longer, shorter, whatever works for you. Take it off, loosen it up. Same thing on this side. Loosen this one up, band clamp. 12mm again to where this to where the springs show a little bit of thread. Should be able to slide it back, wiggle it off if you have to, then pull it out. Now this side is very big, kind of a pain. Everything, you got your AC stuff right here and everything else, so everything's kind of got to be wiggled out of the way. Hose comes out fairly easy. When we get down to the valve cover, you'll see kind of the pain. Alright, now we got the intake side of the intake tube coming off the intercooler off the motor. Kind of shows you a little bit of what we're working with right here. We got to still disconnect a few things. One is the manifold air pressure sensor. I pulled it back, tried to pull it off, and mine broke. Not a problem. I'll take a razor knife, cut that off, and I still got enough hose here to stretch it out and make it work. Second, pull this assembly off of the stud there and separate it. These are your heater hoses. I was able to do all this without taking this off. And I just kind of stuck them back here on this bolt, kind of get them out of the way for a little while. Not too crazy, you don't want to get them leaking. Alright, then it's the same thing on this side. We got the glow plug ejector harness. Pull out with a screwdriver right here. The only thing is different, you get a little bit less space to work with. Pull that out of the way. I do that because I don't want to keep that there and sturdy whenever I'm trying to take the valve cover off, and I just want to do it now while I'm thinking about it. Then you got to pull the you take a 12mm socket, start to pull the bolts off. Again, I use deep well socket because there's a couple of studs in there, and I don't like that to keep changing sockets around and losing it. Got all those off. Now, to get this thing out, it's like I figure out a different way to do it every time. You just kind of got to wiggle it out. Probably get a little bit of debris in the motor. You know, obviously you don't want to do that, but just do the best you can. I find that if I kick the back of it up like this, run it backwards, pop it up with this hose out of the way, kind of just pull it out. That's what I found was the easiest way. Works for me. We got the same. Now we got the same situation on this side. Same thing. White wires are for your glow plugs, and on this side, you got blues, reds, yellows, different wires. Probably the same on the other side. You want to. This is what you're actually trying to pull off, and that's stuck down in here. You want to take your needle nose pliers, not grabbing the wire. Wrong. Grab the actual boot, pop it off, and then that gives you access to all of your glow plugs. Again, now that you have access to them, you take long extension. Not quarter inch is better because of the tight tolerances in there between the injector and the push rods with a 10mm deep well sockets, because it's got, you know, the little diode that the plug clips on that you can't use a short socket with. Take it off, pull them out with needle nose pliers like I showed you on the other side. Not a big deal.